Jai Hind everybody. I am Dr. Rashmi Sharma, working as a associate professor in Department of Information Technology. Today we would be discussing one of the important topic of project management and entrepreneurship subject, which is being taught in 7th and 8th semester of BTech final year. The topic which I would be discussing is project life cycle. So what do we mean by project life cycle? What are the different life cycle path curves, and what do we mean by project feasibility report, and what all things are being included into this particular project feasibility report? We would be discussing all these particular topics in this video. The keywords which I would be discussing is conceptualization or the initialization phase. That is how the project is being initiated, or how our idea, the concept came into picture, the seed of idea came, and now we are converting that particular idea into the initialization phase, or taking that as a project to complete that. When we are taking that as a project and trying to complete it, we have to go through some of particular life cycle phases. One is the planning phase, as I have the conceptualization or the ideation of that particular idea, which we have discussed in our last video. How we have to plan, what all things we need to plan, maybe resource, maybe risk, maybe execution plan, maybe financial plan. So we would be looking into all those particular aspects. Then after planning all those things, actually we have to develop that particular product or provide that particular services to our clients. So then comes the execution phase, and in this particular execution phase we have to have a review of each and every part which we have planned in this particular planning phase. Then after doing the execution, we have to do a termination and the closure phase. And this termination and the closure phase definitely includes our monitoring and control part, so that if there is some major changes which is being required, then we again go to this particular initialization phase of the project. That becomes the next phase, next part, project 1 and part 2, or the phase 2. Then when these particular tasks, all these particular 4 tasks are being done, what is the curve path which we follow? Maybe it can be the S shape or the J shape. So here we would be discussing 2 S and J shape paths. Then comes, when all these particular things are taken into consideration, we have to prepare a report that deals about the feasibility of that particular project. The idea or the initialization which we have done, and we have executed it and done a closure also, we have to say that how feasible that particular project or the idea which we have taken is. So coming to what do we mean by project life cycle? Definitely every project from conception, that is from the idea or the concept which is being developed, to the completion passes through various phases, as we have discussed: initialization, planning, execution and termination. So it has many phases. Only these 4 phases I am stating it, but there is no universal rule for these. We can have sub phases also, through which we have to go through, and we would be looking into all those particular phases. So there is no universal consensus about the phases. It depends on project to project or from scope to scope also. Like for a software, we have different models, as you might have studied in software engineering. I have different models, maybe the waterfall model, maybe the spiral model or the rapid model, and in all those particular phases we have different things. We have a SRS phase in which we define the software requirement specification. We have a design document which we have to prepare, and then we go for the execution or the development phase, and then we go for the implementation or the testing phase, which has all those things. So here also, depending on the type of the product which you are developing or type of the services which we are providing in this particular project, we have different life cycle phases. But on a broader or a course form, we divide it into 4, and in those particular 4 we can have the sub phases. So an understanding of the life cycle is important for the successful completion of any of the project, and to understand the logical sequence of all those events in continuation with the progress from start to the finish. The main aim of our project undertaking is we have to start from a particular phase or the initialization phase or the ideation phase, and we have to successfully deliver that particular idea or the product or the services to the client. And when we do that particular thing, that means we are finishing that particular idea which we have taken into consideration. So on a coarser side or a broader side, we divide it into 4 particular phases. This is conceptualization or initiation, then planning phase, then execution phase, termination or the closure phase. So each phase is been marked by one or more deliverables as a concept note, feasibility report. We should see if it is feasible or not. What conceptualization we have, are we able to convey to each and every person which is in that particular project team? Then if we are able to convey that in the form of the concept note, then what is the feasibility? If they are looking into the feasibility of that particular project, are we able to deliver that particular feasibility? Then implementation plan. How much we will execute in a single phase, how much we will execute in the another phase and give it, or on an updation basis we will give it to our client or the customers. Then human resource HRD plan is also how many resources do we require. Then we have a resource allocation plan. This HRD plan and human resources are somewhat similar also and somewhat different also. Here HRD specifically tells about human resources, and here the resources may be the infrastructure which you require, maybe the electricity, maybe the water, different all things, maybe the logistic you require. All those comes under your resources. Then the evaluation report, the idea which we were taking into consideration. See, if I'm looking into the feasibility report and I tell that I would get a 10% profit from that particular product which I'm developing, and after selling it 10% would be the profit. If I'm able to get that particular profit or not, or am I able to execute that particular project in the desired time which I have done into this planning phase. So we have to evaluate, and this is called as the review phase, which would be looking into the future. So this is the life cycle diagram. In each and every phase, this project communication is the heart. We have to communicate each and everything, maybe in the form of paper, maybe in the form of WhatsApp messages, maybe in the form of mails. So communication is a tool which keeps all this particular 4 life cycle into sync with each other. So first is project initiation. In this project initiation phase, the output is project definition or the scope of that particular project. This here you can tell you have the scope or the objective of the project which we have to develop. Then taking into consideration the objective and the scope, then we go for the planning phase. So in planning phase, we have the detailed planning. We will look into it. We plan for different things. Maybe financial feasibility, financial planning I require resource planning, I require infrastructure planning, or I require risk planning, I require execution planning. So different planning things have been required. So here we have everything on paper. We don't have actually doing the things. We have everything with our expertise. We are forecasting it, and after forecasting it or predicting it, actually what we are doing is project execution. And when the project execution is being done, we have to monitor and control the things. That if we would be looking into the continuous review phases of each and every part which we have planned. Actually, I'm doing it and I'm looking into the plan. Have I been in sync with the plans which I have done, or I'm exceeding the plans, or I'm behind the plan? So I have to look into that. So here the monitoring and control is very, very, very essential and has to be done on a cut-to-cut basis. Then comes the project closure. When the project ends, then you have the implementation on review on that particular part. And if there are loopholes or some particular changes are being required and those changes are very in a broader aspect, then we again go for the next phase of initiation of that particular project. Like the updates we get in the software. So that again is a loophole which is there, and they are overcoming with a new update which they are providing you on your mobile phones. So what do we mean by conceptualization? Looking into all those particular things. So starting from the seed of our ideation, what all it covers? It covers the identification of your products and the services which you want to deliver. Then pre-feasibility phase. Is somebody else providing it? If no, yes. If yes, they are providing, what is the cost they are getting? So a pre-feasibility, is it feasible to get it or not? If I tell you that I have to fly to US, and if I tell I want to fly in 2 hours only. So if that is feasible or not, we usually take 10 to 12 hours to reach to that particular destination in US. So is it feasible to reach in 2 hours? So we have to see the pre-feasibility also. Then we will go for what can be the speed and all those. So if it is feasible, then we detail out that particular feasibility study and then see what all appraisals we require and what all approvals we require. What all enhancements the current system which is working. If we have a current system, then what all enhancement or appraisals it is required. If no system exists, then what from the scratch we have to do it. What all approvals do I have to require? Like if I have a land and I have to develop the infrastructure, so I have to get it approved from government official in the form of a map. So I require the Nagar Nigam to allow me, or the PWD should allow me to approval on that particular plan that I have to construct so and so many things. So each and every approval, like we have studied in our first unit also, if I have to start a company, then even I have to get a approval from the Green Revolution. If my project is not emitting any harmful content in the air, maybe not in the soil also, so we have to take approvals from the government also. So idea is conceptualized with your initial considerations of all possible alternatives. What are all possible alternatives through which I can achieve that particular project objectives? As the idea becomes established, a proposal is being developed, and after the proposal, we have to set out the rationale, method, estimated cost, benefits, and other details for the appraisals, so that we can give it to our stakeholders or the persons who are investing money in our project. After reaching a broad consensus on the approval, we have to analyze each and every dimensions in detail. Here I have named those particular things only as a conceptualization. Now we will be doing it, detailing that out in our next phase, that would be the planning phase. So practically what all things we should take into consideration in the conceptualization? First is we should develop a business case. That is the idea which is coming can be converted into a project, can be converted into a business idea or a project idea. So when I'm converting that into a business idea or a project idea, that means I'm developing a business case study for that. Then I have to see if that is true, then we have to undertake a feasibility study for that. So if it is feasibly for the environment, is it feasible for that particular location? Is it feasible that I can get all those particular resources here, so on and so forth. So looking into it, if I take an example that I am opening a woolen wear or a knitwear company in South, is it feasible? No. I won't be able to get that particular market in South India, because there they don't have that much cool weather. So if I have to do it, if I do it in North India, that would be a better option. So I have to see the feasibility study of that particular idea, which I am taking into consideration. And on taking that particular idea, what all things are feasible? I have to look into those things. Then I have to take the terms of references. If that particular similar type of idea is being executed by some another company or some another people, then we have to take a reference, what are problems they had to face, and if we also incur that particular problem, then what would be our solution for that. So in short, overall feasibility of that particular project, in terms of reference also, in terms of feasibility also, we are doing it. Then comes, we appoint a project team. Definitely, we should appoint a project leader or a manager, maybe a supervisor or a technical leader. And then we have that particular team members. If I'm developing something in software, what all software expertise I require. Or if I have something in production, then what all resources persons are required. Maybe one for machine handling, maybe one for shift supervising, maybe one for logistics supervising. So I have to decide decide on that particular project team. Once the project team is finalized, then where that particular team would be sitting around, maybe where that particular team would be there, so that we can have that particular all of them at a single location, maybe under the same roof, not in the same place, but in the same roof, in the same vicinity. Then comes perform the phase reviews. Each and every phase has to be reviewed. How will that means? I'm reviewing the feasibility also, I'm reviewing the references again also, I'm reviewing the project team also, and again the place where they are being sitting. So we have to review each and everything again and again once the conceptualization is finalized. Then comes the planning. So the planning phase, we have in this phase the project structure is planned according to the project approvals and the appraisals. So we require some of the approvals to be done. So detailed plans for activity, finance and resources. These are the main three parameters which we have to take into consideration. Definitely activities, what all things we have to perform. Then what finance do we require? What are the resources? In terms of financial feasibility, in terms of monetary, I require. Maybe for logistic, I have to give 20% in advance. Maybe for our raw material, I have to give 80% in advance. In all those particular things, the monetary things, the expenses, the monetary liabilities which I have, what all things I have to take into consideration. Definitely for the resources, it comes under human resource also. It comes for your machinery also, the maintenance of the machinery also. All those particular electricity, water, all those things comes under your resources which we need to do it. And for all those, we have to integrate these particular things and integrate it by the quality parameters, because we have to have that particular quality standards also. Like we have ISI, we have ISOs. So we have to have those particular quality standards also done once we are using that particular product to be sold in the market. Then identification, the major task is we have to identify the activities and the sequencing of those particular. After this, we would be doing this. After this, we have to do this. So sequencing of these activities is also very, very critical part. Then the time frame for the execution. If that particular work has to be done in 2 days, maximum I can take 2.5 days. I have to keep the buffer amount also, maybe for the machinery breakups, maybe for the resources shutdowns. There n number of things can be there. So I have to fix that particular time frame also with a buffer amount, keeping mind into consideration. Then estimation and budget. Definitely when I'm keeping that particular buffer amount, I have to have the budgeting also. I cannot keep that if I have to do a particular work in 2 days, I keep 8 days for that work, because I would be over expending the money. My budget will go over budget because I have to pay for all those particular resources also. If 10 persons are working on that particular project and I've added 6 additional days, definitely I have to pay all those 10 people for 6 more days. So I have to have a specific estimation and budgeting. Maybe we cannot exceed this particular amount, so we have to have a resource with a lower cadre or a lower salary package. Then the staffing, how many number of people I require, what all stationery do I require, what all conveyance I can give to them. So all those things we have to take into consideration in this particular planning phase. So after a planning phase is being over, we have a detailed project report along with us, that is called as the DPR. This is usually a 2-marker question. What do we mean by DPR, which comes in AKTU? So DPR is detailed project report, which specifies various aspects of the project which are being finalized to facilitate the execution in this particular phase. So I have to keep into consideration all those planned activities, and in those particular plan I have to look into the project plans, the resource plan, the financial plans, the quality plans, the acceptance plans, obviously by the customer or the client which we have, and then the communication plans also. So this is the whole diagram we would be taking into one step into consideration. So this all plannings are have to be done before we actually go to the implementation or the execution phase of any of the project. So first we start with, we have to create a project plan. As we have done a pre-feasibility phase, of that particular ideation in our initialization phase. See, we have done this particular feasibility phase. This feasibility is done. We have taken the references into consideration. We know the team and we know where that particular team would be sitting, and we are doing a continuous review of this particular phase. So now comes, we start with that particular project plan, that is called as the PP. When the project plan is ready, in this particular project plan, I have a number of things to be done. This project plan comprises of our resource plan. Here, as I told you, I have all those particular resources. That is infrastructure. In this infrastructure, building, the machineries which I require, everything comes. Then I have all the amenities which I am providing. The water cooler, maybe the resting areas, maybe the hospital. So all these amenities comes into this resources, and definitely our human resources coming into this. So I have infrastructure also, I have all the amenities also, and the human resources to be considered. So in infrastructure, we consider the building, we consider the machinery, we consider all those different things. So when these particular resources are considered, for each and every resource, I have some financial plans, because these particular amenities, they are common to all the projects, but some of the financial is being definitely expended on these particular things. If I tell you that I have 6 water coolers, and my 6 water coolers, one by one, every bi-monthly, they require their filters being changed, or they require a service every quarter. So I have to keep a financial plan with that particular project for some surplus amount also. So this financial plan not only consider the plan for that particular project, but there are some particular things which we have to keep as a buffer also in this particular project. If I go 10% plus minus in this particular financial project, then I have to take into consideration. Definitely the quality plan, what should be the quality of that particular product. Here this is solely related to our project, because in this financial plan we have some ups and downs, but we cannot do a quality up and down, because if I have an ISO or ISI, then I have to have a quality standard of each and every product. In this quality plan, I can have 2 different plans. One for our raw material which we are taking. If the raw material is not quality oriented, then definitely the finished good which you are going to produce may not be quality oriented. So you may fail in that particular quality plan which your client or the customer require. And second is for your finished goods quality plan. So we have to see what are our raw material quality plans. When the raw material is coming, we have to have a quality check on that particular raw material also. And definitely when you are delivering your finished goods to any of your client, you should have a quality check at this particular point also. Then the risk plan. Definitely what all are the risks? Assume one single example. If I am taking 100 materials from our from our clients for as a raw material, and out of which I get 5% is not usable by me. So in that particular price, I am using it 95%. So if I have to incur that cost, I have to consider that risk. Maybe there is a shutdown for 4 days. I have to take that particular risk into consideration. Then what is the acceptance level? If our client is delivering greater than 5% scrap, then I won't be accepting it. More greater than 5% wastage or not quality oriented, I won't take that as consider that as a consignment. Maybe I have to communicate them through paper. When I have done that particular deal, I have to communicate that deal also with my client also and with my customers also. Then what are the procurement plan? If a particular raw material falls a danger level of 10, we are having only 10 items in our inventory, then I have to raise a procurement plan that you have to send a order receipt or a order to our raw material person. So you have to have that procurement plan also. Then contract to the suppliers. Maybe a single supplier who is having a monopoly in that particular market is availing you more prices, is quoting you more prices, but another who is a new person is giving you more discounts. So you have to see what all contracts you have to sign it with your suppliers from when you are taking the raw materials. And then definitely the phase review. For each and everything, I have to review this particular phase. And in the execution phase, we will come to each and every plan to have this particular part. So the execution phase, this phase project witness concentrated activities, and these activities are being monitored, controlled, and coordinated to achieve the project objectives. So what are the objectives? You have to communicate with the stakeholders. If you're running in profit or loss, you require more resources, so on and so forth. Then reviewing the progress. This reviewing the progress is you have to revisit this particular plan and execution. You have to shuffle between plan and execution. Monitor the cost and time. The time which we have, you have told you are completing the task in that particular time or not. The cost is the same which you have planned or not, or how much variation you are having on that particular. Then controlling the quality. Definitely we have to look into the quality constraints also, and managing the changes if quality or time or cost is not being done. So what all review we require for all those reviews, I have to review that, manage that particular changes. In the execution phase, the outputs are the deliverable or the monitoring and the control, which performs the phase review. So there are two things which are going in parallel, or I should say there are total of 9 activities which I have to take into consideration while I'm doing this particular monitoring or building a deliverable. Time management, cost management, quality management. If any changes isn't required, so you have to perform the change management. Definitely risk has to be managed. Issues if they are coming, maybe in terms of time, cost, or breakdown in the electricity, maybe breakdown in the machinery. So all those issues I have to take. If procurement, I have to develop 100 finished goods, 1000 finished goods, and I have only material for 900. I have to look into that. For the person, the supplier who can give me at the fastest speed, I have to look into that. So I have to have the procurement plan also. Then with all this procurement acceptance, maybe for the deliverables which I am giving and from the suppliers which I am taking, so I should have an acceptance plans also. And definitely for all those things we have to communicate. So time, cost, performance issues, all these are things which we have to review while we are in the execution phase, so that we can have that deliverable in a good structure or in a good shape. Then coming to the execution phase, I have the deliverables, then controlling the project delivery, maybe quality, risk, issues, all those things we have to take into consideration. The last one is the termination or the closure phase. In this termination or the closure phase, all the deliverables are being installed and the project is put into actual implementation phase. This is mostly for the software. When we have the product or the services, we have delivered that to the client or the customers, and now they are using it and giving us the feedback. If they have some particular negative feedbacks, we have to go for the reinitialization of the project, and if they are satisfied, then we go for the new product. So you are winding down the project by releasing the handing over to the deliverables to the customer. You have that booklet or you have a help doc file which you are giving it, and in this you perform the project closure along with the project review. And here in the software terms we have the takeaways in which tell us is the best practices which we have for each and every project. What are the different best practices, what are the risks which we have taken, and the risk mitigation plan which we have taken. So we all jot down when this is in terms of your software. So we have to take into consideration the best practices of that particular project along with the risk mitigation plan. So comprising this becomes the whole project. If a 2-marker question comes in the project life cycle, this diagram is more than sufficient for a 2-marker question. You are starting with the initialization, that is you are taking a new project or a new phase of that particular project. Then in the planning, I have to establish the scope of the project. I have to define the course of actions which I have to take, and definitely I have the objectives of that particular project. Then in the monitoring and the controlling phase, we have to track, review and regulate the performance of that particular project which we are developing it. In the execution phase, we have to complete the task which we have planned in this particular planning phase, and this when the project plan is accomplished or not. And when it is accomplished, then we have the final closure form in which we finalize all the activities of the process which is given on the project basis. For each and every project, we have this particular broadly 4 steps, but in sub steps you can have many life cycle phases there. So these all are the activities which are being done, as we have discussed. In initialization, project objectives, project manager is identified, constraints and authorizations are taken into consideration. Then in planning, the statement of work is there, project plan, project glossary, constraints, assumptions, and the project plan updates are there. In execution phase, I have project deliverables, deliverable acceptance, actual efforts, change request, issues. And in controlling, status reports, plan per change management results, and issue management results. In the closure, I prepare all these particular closure reports and ongoing cross projects. If I have some improvements, I go for this particular phase. So these are mostly the phases in which we discuss. We have two shapes of this particular life cycle. One is S shape. Here the slow start and a slow finish. The momentum is in between. Okay, so for S shape, we have momentum in between and slow rise and slow ending. And in J shape, I have the random increase, a rapid increase in that particular. So momentum is in this way only. So A shape, I have the slow start and slow end, and in between I have the momentum, and the J part I have the extreme momentum. So coming to the feasibility report, I have to define that what all things we have taken into consideration. These feasibilities, I have to take the financial, resources and time management, and the prepared document is called as the detailed project report. So in this video, we have discussed about what are the different life cycle phases. One was the initialization, which we call also as the conceptualization. Then the planning phase, execution phase, termination or the closure phase. The two shapes were S and J. So here I have a rapid increase in J, and in S only rapid increase in the middle part. The slow beginning and the slow ending is there. And when we define all those particular feasibility or re-review of these particular things, then this is called as the project feasibility report of each and every phase. So these are the references from which this PPT was being developed. Thank you for this video.